Hey, welcome back to Album April. It's April 10th, and today I listened to In Utero by Nirvana. There aren't a lot of bands who could say that they were truly decade defining. Nirvana was one of them. You know how, like, the 80s aesthetic is neon and glitter, and then the 90s aesthetic is grunge and plaid? Nirvana had a lot to do with that. Glam rock and hair metal was out, grunge was in. Their second album, Nevermind, is one of the most famous albums of all time. I listened to that for my very first album, April, 2 years ago. Smells Like Teen Spirit, the lead single from that album, has pretty much become immortalized. But Nirvana did not even last halfway through the 90s, because if you know your history, you know that in 1994, the lead singer and face of the band, Kurt Cobain, committed suicide. However, the band was able to release one more album before that happened, and that is In Utero. One of the inherent ironies of punk rock is that a big part of it is being countercultural. But if you're in a time in history where the culture actually is dominated by punk rock, what are you supposed to do then? I guess the solution that Nirvana went with is to be more punk and more grunge sounding. The band, and especially the producer they got for this album, wanted it to sound a lot less mainstream than Nevermind and make it sound really different, a lot more raw and visceral. Having listened to both albums, in my opinion, In Utero doesn't even sound all that different from Nevermind, it just sounds worse. I did not really like this album very much. Some of the songs on In Utero are like what I was afraid that Nevermind might sound like. One of the songs, Tourette's, on this album is one of the most ear-grating songs I've ever heard in my life, and I'm sure that was intentional. Other songs on this album, such as Milk It, Scentless Apprentice, and the fourth track that I don't even want to say the title of, also do kind of develop into screaming and weird cacophony. If they wanted this album to sound a lot less polished than Nevermind, they succeeded, but I think that came at a cost. They were allowed to do whatever they wanted with their own music, but just from an outside perspective, I question the wisdom of trying to distance yourself from an album that was really good and a lot of people liked. Most of the songs on In Utero I either didn't like or didn't get, with two exceptions. There are two songs on this album that actually do sound like a grungier version of, like, the Nirvana Nevermind sound. And those songs I actually, got the vision, and that was Heart-Shaped Box and All Apologies. Heart-Shaped Box is a really well-written song about, if not an abusive or toxic, at least a rocky romantic relationship. Kurt Cobain said that it was about children with cancer, but I think most people agree that it was really about love. Courtney Love. All Apologies is my favorite song from In Utero. Not only does it sound the best out of all of them, like that sort of, I'm gonna say it, more mainstream pop-friendly production from Nevermind does come back a little bit in this one song. I also liked the lyrics. Despite having little in the context of, actual words spoken, it conveys a lot of different emotions. I think that if all of In Utero was like Heart-Shaped Box and All Apologies, I'd be singing a completely different tune. But with the album we got, I vastly prefer Nevermind to In Utero. Okay, thank you for listening. I'll see you tomorrow.